The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning here at 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. We have so much to talk about this morning, from the fires overnight and that earthquake, and of course this heat wave that's really going to ramp up today.
Yeah, it's really going to start to feel really hot, even more dangerous than yesterday. We got a little bit of reprieve, I guess you could say, in the forecast, because we didn't see those extremely hot temperatures. But that could change today, right, Kev?
Yeah, yesterday was definitely a busy day. In fact, I have friends in Gardnerville. If you remember, I was in Virginia City last week, and they felt the big shake yesterday. And now we're talking about the heat here. Yesterday, we were 3 degrees off the high. Hey, it's always good when we don't reach those high temperatures, but we are expecting another extreme day in the temperature department. Let's talk about the watches and warnings really quick. Nothing has changed. We still have the excessive heat warning in place for all of Kern County until Monday at 9 p.m. I want to talk about the heat. I want to talk about cars because it's very important, and I want to show you the temperature increase here. When it's 70 degrees outside, and we're already above that right now, look how hot, even without the direct sunlight, how warm it can get into our car in just 60 minutes, about 112 degrees. We bumped that up to 80 degrees outside, and you can see just in 10 minutes, we're almost at 100. In 60 minutes, 123 degrees in your vehicle, and then when we're at 90 degrees, look how warm it gets. In just an hour, 133 degrees in your car. So again, a reminder, make sure we never leave the kids, any family members, or our pets in the car on these extremely hot days. Outside right now, we've got clear skies and 85 degrees. It is already 85. Light wind out of the south-southeast at 3 miles per hour. And as we take a look at the day here, we're going to warm it up quickly. 97 degrees by 10 o'clock. We're going to hit that before we even get to the noon hour, and then we're looking at 109 right around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Out of Tehachapi right now, we've got a temperature of 70, a calm wind, and as we take a look at the day here, by 10 a.m. you're at 90 degrees, and then we're going to be right in the mid to upper 90s throughout the afternoon. And this heat's going to continue. We'll talk more about it coming up in just a little bit.
All right, thanks so much, Kev. We begin this morning with a massive fire at an abandoned business in downtown Bakersfield. Emergency crews were called to Chester Avenue and 20th Street around 10:30 last night. Bakersfield Fire Department Battalion Chief Mike Lencioni said the fire broke out at the old Maria's Home Furnishings location, right between Tina Marie's Cafe and the Buena Vista Museum. You may remember last December when a fire broke out in that same area, burning Tina Marie's previous building to the ground. Lencioni said surrounding businesses sustained minimal to no damage.
The crews had to force entry into the museum, so they cut locks and stuff to access, so minimal damage to the museum. And again, they're going back and forth into that building assessing for water damage. There is a basement, so we're making sure that water from the ladder pipe operations is not flooding the basement.
But you had a good day too? Busy but good?
5 engines and 3 ladder trucks were needed to knock down the blaze. No one was hurt. Arson investigators are working to determine the cause of the fire.
Education news now, and big news out of the Fairfax School Board of Trustees meeting last night, with the board unanimously voting to remove Palmer Moland as president while allowing him to stay on the board. This all comes as Moland faces allegations of harassment and bullying. But the vote about who would replace Moland as president was divided. Despite opposition from trustees Virginia Lawson and Victoria Colonel, trustees Alma Rios and Jose Luis Tapia and Palmer Moland voted for Rios to become the next board president. And when the board later took up a motion to formally censure or rebuke Moland, he left the meeting, sparking frustrations.
I'm going to excuse myself, and I'm going to let them vote on the censure motion.
You have to excuse yourself. What do you mean you can't do nobody?
Can we please have some respect?
Don't make it out to be a full.
Excuse me.
The censure failed, with Rios and Tapia voting against it. The meeting comes about a month after the Kern County Grand Jury released a scathing report calling the Fairfax School Board divided and dysfunctional. Members of the community are organizing a recall campaign to oust Moland, Tapia, and Rios. Just a little more than 1,500 valid signatures are needed by September 26th to qualify a recall election on the ballot.
Clinica Sierra Vista is now offering rapid COVID-19 testing and COVID-19 vaccinations. Call 833-278-4584 to make your appointment. But don't delay. Clinica Sierra Vista, putting patients first.
And we're back here at 522. President Biden's taking action today to make it easier for you to get a better job as unemployment claims rise. President Biden will sign an executive order asking the Federal Trade Commission to restrict non-compete agreements that prevent workers from taking a better job with the competition. It also is said to take aim at monopolies in concentrated markets and industries including agriculture, airlines, broadband, and banking. The White House estimates millions of blue-collar workers are affected. This as new unemployment claims rise, suggesting that job growth may be stalling. Pfizer says a third dose of its COVID vaccine could extend protection against the virus. Early data from the company's booster study found a third dose given 6 months after the second generated antibody levels 5 to 10 times higher than the two-dose regimen. The company's planning to tailor the third dose to target the Delta variant. Subject to approvals, clinical studies for the third dose could begin as early as August. The FDA and CDC said in a joint statement yesterday that fully vaccinated people do not need COVID-19 boosters.
City leaders and first responders say the process at the Champlain Towers collapse site is moving along, and they're making every effort to take care of those on the front lines. The total number of confirmed dead now stands at 64 lives lost. 200 people are accounted for, 76 are still potentially missing. Miami-Dade's mayor said assistance to the affected families will continue.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Bakersfield residents will soon have a new Filipino bakery to sink their teeth into. Red Ribbon Bake Shop confirmed a new location is coming to town. According to its website, Red Ribbon has over 450 outlets all over the Philippines and more than 30 stores here in the U.S. The Los Angeles Times has twice cited Red Ribbon's Mango Supreme Cake as the best of L.A. No word yet on when the location will officially open. For a look at what they have to offer, you can visit their website at redribbonbakeshop.us.
Well, speaking of Filipino treats, Umaga Cafe is also coming to Bakersfield. The brick and mortar location's holding its soft opening this weekend on Stockdale Highway next to the new Noriegas. The cafe is previewing some of its menu items on Facebook, including ube latte. 5:05, and now to a powerful earthquake and dozens of aftershocks in Northern California. The shaking was felt right here in Kern County as well. 17's Aton Wallace spoke with people who said they felt the ground move, and he has more on what they've learned so far about the Templars.
You're looking at and listening to rock sliding down a mountain in the northeastern Sierras. The rock slide caused by this, a magnitude 6.0 earthquake centered in Smith Valley, Nevada, about 50 miles southeast of Lake Tahoe.
This lamp is swaying right now.
The powerful quake striking just before 4 p.m. Thursday and followed by at least 72 aftershocks as of 11 p.m.
It was an earthquake.
Near the epicenter, large boulders spilled into the roadway along Highway 395, but other than that, there were no reports of any damage or injuries.
Oh my goodness, just felt a pretty big earthquake over here.
The U.S. Geological Survey says the area where the quake struck has seen its fair share of shaking over the last few decades.
This earthquake is not particularly uncommon for the region. It's a region with active faults.
The shaking felt across Northern California and right here in Kern County. Viewers taking to KGET social media pages to say they felt the quakes all over the Golden Empire, from Wasco to the Kern River Valley to Arvin. Jenny Hastings felt the shaking at her home in downtown Bakersfield.
They just got all, and I thought, never, no, not here. And yeah, it scared the pants off of me.
And it also scared her furry family members.
My dogs were going nuts. Boy, they wanted in my lap and they didn't want down.
A few blocks away, Doris Arad was at work on the 6th floor in this building on 17th and L Streets.
I felt a little queasy and I realized somebody said, oh, the plants are moving, and we realized, oh, there's an earthquake going on. And by the time we thought to duck and cover, it was over.
She's grateful it was not more serious, but believes this is a good reminder to always be prepared.
We're in California. There's earthquakes, there's wildfires. You never know what's going to happen.
Now, geologists with the USGS say there is a 6% chance that the initial magnitude 6.0 quake is a foreshock to an even larger quake. They remind people to always have extra supplies of food and water, a first aid kit, and a flashlight just in case for that day when the big one strikes. In studio, Eitan Wallace, 17 News.
Good idea now to get that emergency kit ready if you don't have it. Coming up at 6:30, we'll speak with a local geologist about what this quake could mean for Kern and whether it could trigger a bigger earthquake in the future. A reminder, you can download the MindShake app to get our earthquake warnings sent to you directly on your phone. Hundreds of earthquake sensors across California track the tremors and warn you just before shaking arrives. It's available for iOS and Android phones. It has also been 2 years since the earthquakes in Ridgecrest. 17's Eitan Wallace returned to Ridgecrest and Trona to see how those communities are doing 2 years later. You can find that special report on our website, kget.com.
A brush fire in Tehachapi shows just how quickly a blaze can spread. First responders were called to the so-called Ave Fire at about 9 a.m. yesterday. The flames threatening nearly 2 dozen buildings. The fire is now 100% contained this morning after scorching about 6 acres. Kern County firefighters say it broke out while someone was actually cutting grass to reduce the risk of fires. For more tips on how to safely, or for more safety tips and emergency alerts, you can visit alertwildfire.gov. The Ave Fire broke out as the whole state is in extreme drought, and now Governor Gavin Newsom is urging Californians to cut water use. Governor Newsom signed off on an order yesterday urging people and businesses to cut their water use by 15%. The order is not mandatory but voluntary. Newsom's action comes as 50 of California's 58 counties now fall under the governor's drought-related emergency proclamation. There are several proposals in the works to improve the state's water systems. The governor and lawmakers are working to spend $5.1 billion toward that and immediate drought response.
17 News is your local election headquarters. Yesterday, Republican gubernatorial candidate John Cox made a stop in Bakersfield as he continues his quest to oust Governor Gavin Newsom in September's recall election. Unlike previous visits across the state, Cox did not bring a live bear with him, but he did bring a new prop. Cox brought this with him, a huge 8-foot ball of trash. Cox says the trash symbolizes government waste and problems facing the state, issues he blames on Governor Gavin Newsom. If elected, Cox says he'll make combating homelessness one of his top priorities.
It is not representing the idea that somehow homeless people are trash. I mean, I heard that from some pundit or some commentator, and of course that's just somebody that doesn't want to have change in California. Let's face it, that's an insider, okay? The trash ball just symbolizes the trash that's left behind and the problems and the unsightly nature of it and the issues that we have with homeless in this state. I mean, it's a giant ball because this is a giant problem.
Cox says he definitely plans to return to Bakersfield before the election. Election day, September 14th. 5:10 now, and coming up this weekend, supporters of the recall effort of Governor Newsom will have a chance to make their voices heard. Tomorrow, the California Patriots Coalition will host a barbecue fundraising event. It's being billed as a Farewell Newsom celebration. A $30 ticket will get you a dinner and a drink. All proceeds go to Recall Gavin 2020 campaign.
Bakersfield police released dramatic body camera video yesterday of a shootout that left one man dead. As 17's Raphael Stroud reports, it is our clearest look yet at what happened that day.
Come on, brother, put the firearm down. We do not want to hurt you.
Nearly 9 minutes of uncut video show the chase and police shooting of a suspect who fired at an officer last month in southeast Bakersfield. It starts as a traffic stop for a missing license plate.
The reason I stopped you, you don't have a license plate on your car?
Well, I know I was getting that right now. I was in the process of getting it.
An officer stopping Jose Antonio Ruiz III June 13th on Clifton Street. But things go wrong once the officer finds out the car is stolen.
Turn off the vehicle.
A gun is drawn and the officer orders Ruiz out, but the car takes off, sparking what will be a deadly pursuit down MLK Boulevard. Ruiz doesn't get far, crashing at Brundage Lane, and that's when the first shots are fired.
998.
The bullets missing the officer but hitting his patrol car. The gunfight makes its way under the 58 overpass into Cottonwood Road, all while Ruiz repeats the same thing.
Put your hands in the air!
Police say this is the moment Ruiz tried to carjack someone outside the Fiesta Food Market on Cottonwood and Padre. And he's shot as backup arrives. Ruiz appearing to be suicidal during the entire shootout.
Drop the gun!
While he's down and wounded, officers have a moment to plan, but Ruiz still has a gun.
You guys cannot let him make it into that store. He's already shot at us, correct?
He shot at me, sir.
Huh?
He shot at me.
All right, we already have a 998 on an officer. Do not let him get into that store. We cannot have a hostage situation.
BPD says body cameras were blocked while officers stayed in cover, but surveillance video from the store shows Ruiz counting down before he lifts his gun and they open fire. 6 officers fired their guns, and BPD says they're all on modified duty while the case is still being reviewed.
Raphael Stroud, 17 News.
From our 17 follow-up file this morning, the coroner's office says a man who died after leading officers on a chase that ended in a crash on Interstate 5 died from a methamphetamine overdose. Back in May, 44-year-old Michael Alvarez reportedly kidnapped and sexually assaulted a young teen on Niles Street. The girl called police from inside Alvarez's car and was able to escape as they traveled through Arvin. CHP officers caught up to the car on Highway 99 before it crashed into the center divider. Alvarez refused to surrender. He was tasered and taken to the hospital where he later died. Meantime, the CHP says a distracted driver may be to blame for a crash that left another driver pinned underneath a semi. This was the scene just before 6 o'clock last night. It happened on Highway 58 near Chester Avenue. According to CHP, the yellow semi rear-ended a Nissan that was behind another semi. The Nissan ended up underneath the yellow cab with the driver pinned inside. Rescue crews say the driver was alert, but he suffered major injuries. No one else was hurt. CHP is looking into the possibility of the driver of the yellow semi that was using a cell phone at the time of the crash.
17 Crime Watch this morning. The Delano Police Department's asking for help solving the cold case murder of a 93-year-old man. The body of Francisco Martinez was found inside his apartment on February 1st, 1994. Police say it appears someone forced their way inside and beat Martinez to death.
Francisco's wounds were so severe that he asphyxiated due to blood obstructing his airway. Francisco was last seen in front of his apartment reading a newspaper. He was brutally murdered at 93 years old.
Anyone with information is encouraged to call Delano Police at 721-3369. And now to what police are calling a hate crime at a local drive-in where a man pulled a knife on an employee. According to the Bakersfield Police Department, officers responded to King's Drive-In on Niles Street around 4 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. During their investigation, BPD says 33-year-old Adrian Aceves learned one of the employees was Arabic and pulled out a knife, saying he wanted to harm the employee because they were a terrorist. Police arrested Aceves, who also has an active arrest warrant.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.